Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Field. I'm Liv Moods, and in just a moment, joined by Nate Jackson and Brandon Krisztal. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Yo,
We're back with another Gorilla Sports Off Field
Yeah,
to talk about some crazy drama.
crazy stuff's going on, man.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world of football.
Wait, football or
Football, yes, lots of crazy things in
Oh,
the
yes.
football world. Yeah, lots of crazy things happening. We will get a little specific. Of course, you guys know we do our little breakdown of first quarter, second quarter, halftime, third, fourth, you know the drill, 2-minute warning, all the things. But the legal tampering
yeah,
is kind of our main focus. And we've got Brandon Krisztal joining us because he is the knower of all knowledge.
he's the legal tamperer.
Yeah,
He is
this stuff
actually
is happening
he actually
fast.
invented legal tampering, if you can believe it. So he's going to probably be checking out his laptop quite a bit while we have conversation, but that's because, as he just said, things are happening very quickly. Nate and I talked a little bit about the whole legal tampering thing. It does feel like those two words shouldn't belong in the same sentence.
Yeah,
like, really
it feels
ever.
weird. Yeah,
But
tampering seems like a bad thing, but
it
you can do
does.
it. You know, it's like the purge. You mentioned that.
You're allowed
Yeah,
to kill today.
You are today.
Yes, only today. It is the football purge. This is literally the football purge.
Yep, it is.
So legal tampering underway. Any breaking news over the last few seconds while we've been live?
Breaking news over the last few seconds, not
Just
necessarily, but
break down what we got going on so far.
but today the Broncos are hosting Evan Ingram. Let's start local. Evan Ingram, who would certainly fill the Joker role. It's funny because I thought he hasn't been that healthy, but he's been healthier than you think. I think it's on the years we've had him in fantasy. Like last year, where he only played 9 games. A few years back, he only played 8. His second year only played 11. But he had a stretch of 16, 15, 17, 17, and is really productive. So I predict that Evan Ingram may not leave the building
He's going to move in
Denver.
They're going to
move
sign
in.
him today. You think?
I think they'll sign him today. And there's a rumor that they're looking at Talanoa Hufanga, safety
Yep.
from the Niners, who's a Pro Bowler in his
Love
second
it.
year.
Big hard hitter.
Hard hitter. He
Something they've
flies
been
around.
missing since Kareem Jackson left.
But talk about missing. He's missed a bunch of games with injuries. He only played 10 games 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. He only played 7 games a year ago. And obviously everybody in San Fran was hurt, as we've talked about with Liv chronicling her Debo show,
Yes.
how banged up they were. But so those are 2 big names. It looks like Matt Pert is going to be back as a swing tackle on a 2-year deal. And yesterday, the Broncos, obviously, with those deals, set to re-sign Jarrett Stidham on a 2-year, $12 million deal. DJ Jones gets a raise and a new 3-year, $39 million deal, 26 fully guaranteed. So DJ will be here for 2 years.
Love it.
For
Saw
sure.
that.
And then Mitch Fraboni, your long snapper,
Faboni's back.
3 years.
Hey, we should have led with that. Why didn't you lead with the Faboni news? I'll say with the Evan Ingram stuff. So Sean Payton's been talking about needing a joker.
Yeah.
What is a joker? It's a guy who puts defenses in a bind by creating mismatches, especially in the middle of the field, with a tight end or a running back who has exceptional receiving skills. Evan Ingram is that guy. As you know, unhealthy as he's been, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. That said, when he's on the field, he has an extra level, an extra gear that most tight ends don't. He has a quick twitch, ability to get in and out of breaks, do double moves, things like that. He's going into his 9th season.
He's 30.
So
at least
not
age.
on the wrong side of 30 as far as NFL players go, and he has been banged up.
Ran a 4.4 coming out of the combine.
Super
4.42.
fast, super quick twitch, but he's kind of perpetually has soft tissue stuff, hamstring stuff, groin stuff, and that happens when guys are built like him. But you got to think that Sean Payton sees a guy like that who has been squandered on the Giants on a crappy team, been squandered on a bad team in Jacksonville, and thinks, I can do something special with him relative to my offense.
Yeah.
He would instantly add an element to this Broncos offense that they've been missing.
Yeah. We're in that first quarter right now talking legal tampering and all things as it pertains to either just the Broncos or the league as a whole. What is the value, in your guys' opinion, on legal tampering and what it can,
We
how
talk-
it can be a little different than just the traditional
Just regular tampering.
regular
Yeah.
tampering.
well, so we
what makes the legal tampering better?
is just that it allows the league to operate in the public for 2 days before everything starts to become official with
Right.
players on contracts that you might be cutting or
So why are they
whatever.
signing guys today then? Like, why is that okay?
That's what I'm kind of wondering. What
and
makes
why did it happen last night too?
Well, so last night the only guys that were actually signed were
free
either
agents?
free agents like Devontae Adams, who signs a big deal to go to the Rams on a 2-year deal, which means Cooper Kupp is still available unless they cut him, but they're trying to trade him. And so you can sign guys like that are on the street that have been released, or you can re-sign your own guys like DJ Jones, like
Right,
Jarrett Stidham,
right.
and you can do that up until the 12th. And so that it gives you some wiggle room because all of a sudden you might land a guy, and that'll allow the player you were maybe gonna keep say, hey, you know what, we are gonna moving on from you. You still have 2 days to figure this out before everything starts to become official. The teams have already been talking. We touched on that at the combine. Agents are talking to personnel people, and the league's not monitoring the conversations. Oh, I rep so and so, but also this guy's going to be a free agent from another team. Do y'all want him? They don't keep track of that, but that's kind of illegal tampering, if you will.
Right.
This is all out in the open, so you start to see deals coming, and also these deals could change because a player agreeing to go somewhere. Devontae Adams, well, he's not a good example, but someone, the center that's going to the Bears, those with the Falcons could decide, you know what, we want to up that deal. Now we're letting them walk. We're not franchising them,
Wow.
but that gives the other team more. Other teams say, "Oh, we really want him too. We're going to come over the top." Even though this has been reported, he's expected to sign. So that's part of it too. Is if there's backlash, you can maybe react one or an owner can be like, "Wait, no, we want to match that deal."
Yeah, a lot of movement, and it's part of the reason why NFL is king, because
Mhm.
they create intrigue when there are no games.
Mhm.
Like, we're in the middle
They
of the
take
offseason.
over. Yeah.
And here we are, everybody's talking about in the middle of, the end of the NBA, the end of the NHL season. And here we are talking about speculation.
I don't know. The NBA was really trying their best during Super Bowl week
They
to
did
make
with
it all
Luka.
about themselves.
Well, that was just dumb
They
luck
were
and
like-
dumb management by Nico Harrison and
Well, of
Patrick Dumont,
course.
the new owner of the Mavs.
But they were, I mean, I was out there for football and felt like
up until Thursday.
the buzz was all about
all-
basketball. It was crazy. So, I mean, yeah, there is definitely a overwhelming sense of football never ends
Yeah.
because there's always something to discuss.
And you're like, just
Uh-huh.
blink twice
She
if
says
you're in
with
trouble.
a twitching eye, right? Yeah, it really doesn't ever end. But shall we get into? I mean, that was kind of a quick first quarter
It doesn't
here,
matter. We can move along.
but the second quarter is pretty, closely attached to what we were just talking about. But
Yep.
big signings over the weekend. There were
Yeah.
quite a few of them. You just mentioned Adams to the Rams. DK Metcalf was another one.
Josh
Wasn't
Allen.
sure
Josh
where he
Allen
was
was the
gonna-
biggest one.
330,
Is that
wasn't
all?
it? And
Poor
he got
guy.
250 guaranteed. I mean,
So the biggest guarantee of all time now, it's just an extension technically. It just adds 2 more years to
Right,
what was already
right.
a 4-year, or what do you had 4 years left? It's now 6 years left.
which is a no-brainer for Buffalo.
Yeah, he's still not the highest paid quarterback. That's still Dak Prescott on an annual
it?
value for now.
Wow.
Dak is still at 60 million, and I think Josh is still a tick. I guess divide 330 by 6 years. Maybe that's a little more. I don't know. But Josh Allen has an MVP. Has gone to the playoffs almost every year.
Mhm.
Has won playoff games. And Dak Prescott, for my hometown Cowboys, we know what his postseason success has looked like, or realistically not looked like. That was a big deal. Another big deal that helped the Broncos potentially, in that Ronnie Stanley didn't go to the Chiefs, is he stayed with the Ravens on a 3-year, $60 million deal. Big deal came down today. Chris Godwin staying with the Bucks,
Yeah.
despite that season-ending injury. 3 years, $66 million, 44 of that
Mhm.
guaranteed. So those are a couple of big deals. Hassan Reddick signs a 1-year deal. Harold Landry goes from the Titans, rejoins Mike Vrabel in New England. New England has over $100 million to spend, and they're going to spend a bunch of it because they've got that rookie quarterback and they've got plenty of holes to fill.
Yeah. Are there any big, I mean, you just mentioned one team that you think is going to be spending some money here. Any players that you think do you have any predictions on some other players during this legal tampering period that may go get some money elsewhere or get re-signed?
There's people keeping an eye on Dre Greenlaw. He's not
There's been some buzz around that. What about
um,
Brandon Ayuk? Have we heard any?
nothing on movement there, and that's
Okay.
probably going to come after some
Right.
of this settles. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we didn't get, and the free agent wide receiver pool this year isn't enormous because most of those guys are locked up. But that doesn't mean that a trade might not come out of nowhere.
So tell me about this one, because Devontae Adams to the Rams, whisperings that Cooper Kupp is probably done there. And
I mean, LA Times, they wrote a story about it.
Yeah, that cements it. Cooper Kupp to the Broncos.
I know you like it. I know you like it.
I do like it too. I'm not against that at all.
I just don't know if they want to spend that much money.
How
on Cooper
much
Kupp.
will they have to spend on Cooper?
Well, they're about to have to spend. We skipped a couple of deals. Max Crosby signing $35 million, made him the highest paid non-quarterback ever.
Crazy.
Miles Garrett.
Miles Garrett comes
Holy
in.
cow.
Over the top.
How could we forget about that
Right,
one?
weird couple of days where
It's funny how money talks, doesn't it? They're like, I want out.
I was just going to say, there is like when it comes to that, because I have a really good friend of mine who works in the space, and she's a huge Browns fan. And she was kind of taking defense of Miles Garrett when he first came out and was like, I can't do it here anymore. You know, he was very honest, and he was like, I want to win, and I don't think I can do that here. It's crazy how with the right stack of cash, winning maybe isn't your priority.
But here's the thing,
anymore.
though.
Because how does that change overnight?
It doesn't change anything. And are you now able to buy some stuff you weren't able to buy before? No.
Right. You're
You
really
already
rich.
had $40 million
Right.
in the bank. Now you're going to have more. But like, are you able to live a different lifestyle? I guess a bigger yacht at some point. But you're playing football. You're not like living a billionaire lifestyle. You probably live in a normal house. You go to work. You work out with your friends. You go home, and the organization you work for is not going to change. You're going to be on the same freaking team.
Right.
And in fact, they're going to have less money to spend on talent. So you're going to be on a worse team, Miles.
What changed between his social media posts and
I think
the contract? It was just more money, but his whole that's where I think
I think it's the ego, Liv, of being told you're going to be the highest paid dude in the land.
I mean,
you're going to record-breaking
we talk a lot
contract.
about ego on this show,
Yeah.
and you get it. You've played this sport. I think you kind of have to have a little bit of an ego to play in the NFL.
A lot of it.
And so I think, it's not just, hey, we'll pay you more, but hey, we'll pay you the most.
Yeah.
That sounds nice to someone with an ego.
Well, Max Crosby is different than Miles Garrett in that the Raiders don't seem as dysfunctional as the Browns, although it's close. Now with Tom Brady running the show,
Pete Carroll there,
and Vegas being new to the Raiders being new to Vegas and growing that team. Max Crosby wants to, because the one thing the Raiders do a good job of is bringing back famous alums that have nothing to do with Vegas, but obviously have to do with the Raiders. So he's always seeing Charles Woodson around and Marcus Allen and these guys. And I'm just listing a couple. Fred Biletnikoff. Max Crosby wants to be there.
Yeah.
So he could go somewhere else.
Yeah,
he wants to be part of
you're seeing Bernie Kosar
and Dave Logan the one time they play the Broncos, but
Jim Brown.
And so I think for Miles, that was more ego. I think for Max, it was more, hey, I'm going to still continue to be a building block. Max wants to get the Raiders right, and he's perfect for them. Versus Miles, they kept saying they weren't going to trade him. Then there was a story that he couldn't even get Jimmy Haslam to meet with him, that Haslam refused to meet with him, which is crazy to me that you're not going to meet with your highest paid employee and your best employee. But obviously they somehow got together. Andrew Berry talked to Haslam and they made him the highest paid player. But their quarterback, until they can move on from the Deshaun Watson thing, they're always going to be hamstrung. Nonetheless, they still have a top pick in the draft.
Yeah, wouldn't they select a quarterback?
I would
try to start moving on from that.
I would think you would, unless you're like, you know what, we don't love either of these guys, and Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter is a generational talent that will could. But if you've got Miles Garrett to put Abdul Carter, it makes no sense. Travis Hunter, though, is at least interesting.
Yeah,
I would still think that.
I hope Shador doesn't go to Cleveland. I just think
it just feels like
and
it just feels like such a we don't know the back end of what goes on behind closed doors in Cleveland, but after a certain amount of seasons and certain decisions that they make and players coming forward and talking about some of their frustrations, you can't help but think and assume that it's a pretty toxic organization over there in one way or another. And when you're a young guy taking on the responsibility of turning around a program, which we have talked about this, that Shador maybe shouldn't want to be the first pick in the draft because you don't want the pressure on your shoulders of trying to turn around an entire franchise. They have the first pick for a reason. Yeah. So you want to see him go somewhere where there's already some established pieces around him. Maybe one of those established pieces is Miles Garrett. We know that he's pretty proven in terms of being a force in the defensive player of the year conversation year after year after year. But yeah, I don't know. I can't help but wonder if there's some toxicity on the back end of that business, because it feels like it's always being talked about, that team in a negative light.
There definitely is. Just Google Cleveland Browns, Seth Wickersham. Seth, who's one of the investigative reporters at ESPN, wrote a great great stuff about the Patriots. Has a new quarterback book out, but he did a whole.
Is it out, the book?
Or it's coming out,
coming
but he
out.
did a whole profile on
Yep.
how dysfunctional the Browns are with Jimmy and D Haslam and on down, and how disastrous the Hugh Jackson era was, which we got to see firsthand on Hard Knocks.
I was there for a week of the Mangini era.
Okay.
And that was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so what's got to give over there?
well, number one, it's Cleveland.
Top down?
You're in
Well,
Cleveland.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, but you're in Green Bay, and that's a wonderful organization. Like it doesn't like the
Yeah.
city isn't everything, but it does matter. And yeah, I don't know. It's just karma, bad juju. I don't know, bad energy. You can't get it right. The Browns, they were okay a couple of years ago. Kevin Stefanski's 2-time coach of the year, right? So they had some success.
It's not a terrible roster.
The Deshaun Watson thing just ruined your energy. It ruined the vibe over there. You're bringing in
It's
a
almost
dude.
like they didn't think that one through all the way.
It's almost like they like.
Hello.
Well, they gave him an unprecedented contract. Never before has the entire contract been guaranteed, right? BK, when they gave him $260 million, while all those cases were open and pending, and the details were there for everybody to read.
Not
about
that long and not that much money.
Scumbaggery that was being
Scumbaggery.
Because Kirk Cousins' deal had been fully guaranteed prior to that.
Okay.
But this was the
not that kind of
longest-
money.
No, not that kind of money.
But you know what?
$230
This is where we can then kind of tie this into the Broncos, not the scumbaggery, but the value of don't just seek out talented players. It's about the whole package, right? We know Sean Payton goes to these combines and he's actually watching the non-event physical things. He's watching how you interact with other players. He's watching how you interact with coaches. He's watching how you answer questions. Those things do matter, you know.
What's in your
Deshaun
backpack?
Watson in
How you
Houston
cut your streak.
was very, very successful, very, very talented. But that's only one fraction of what a quarterback who's leading your team needs to possess. And so to acquire a Deshaun Watson, to pay him a lot of money and to give him some stability when maybe nothing else in his life was stable.
And he was living a lie.
That's a lot. That's a big risk that you take. And we're seeing that risk ultimately bite him in the behind. And
right in the behind.
Right in it.
So there were a couple of names that were on the Broncos list that you thought they'd maybe look at in free agency, especially at inside linebacker. We knew Zach Bond going back to the Eagles. That got announced last week. He signs a big deal. Nick Bolton was maybe at the top of a lot of people's free agency list.
People were hoping he'd be Bolton for Denver, but he's not. He's staying in Kansas City.
And I know there's been some reporting out there that he was high on the Broncos list, but I've talked to some people who said that he wasn't as high as other people think, just based on, despite how fast he is, that the
skill set,
that they didn't have him as high as maybe the outside people did. Either way, he stays in Kansas City, so he'll continue to be tackling whoever has the ball for the Broncos for the next 3 years. And then a couple other free agents that you thought they might look at. Jamie Sherwood stays with the Jets, and Robert Spillane goes from the Raiders. He's now headed to the Patriots, along with Carlton Davis, former Buck, and Lions get worse on the back end. 3 years, $60 million to go. And the Patriots understand they have to overspend. They kind of always have had to at times post Tom Brady. I say always, these last 4 or 5 years. And they're going to again, but they have the money. So Carlton,
and they got Vrabel now at the helm, where they got to feel good about
and a young quarterback. So there's a chance that if they draft well, that they won't always have to overspend. But this year, and everyone knows they have the most money. They're going to overspend. But they've acquired Harold Landry, and now they have just signed Carlton Davis and Robert Spillane.
Did my eyes deceive me, or did you know when you sometimes wake up in the morning and you're like, was that a dream, or did I really see that on my timeline, or was it a fake news?
No, you really did get engaged this weekend.
No, I really did get engaged. That is true. That did really happen. But was there? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do a little. It did happen. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. But did Geno Smith go to the Raiders?
Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders.
Okay, because I was kind of sitting here thinking through the AFC West a little bit, and I was like, all right, you've now just added. Oh wait, that's NFC West and AFC West. I was thinking about the West as a whole, and I was like,
well, the West is the best.
There's a lot of mixing up going on here, because if Cooper Kupp leaves, you just added Devontae Adams. That's a change.
Yep.
Debo left the 49ers. That's a change. Ayuk wants to get out of there. Dre Greenlaw is still in conversation. Geno's out from the season. Yeah, DK and Geno gone.
Tyler Lockett gone.
Okay, and then in the AFC West, you've added Geno and Pete Carroll as a combination in the AFC West. Harbaugh with Justin Herbert, we know that was a fresh new thing, but they still made quite a bit of progress. The Broncos still kind of having conversations on what they want to do. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. I hate it, but it's the truth. Yeah. And then who am I missing from this?
I mean,
That's
that's it
it.
so far, but more to come, right?
Again, yeah.
Well,
so
the-
there's
the-
just a lot going on in the West. It
The
feels
Chargers
like.
re-signed Khalil Mack on a 1-year,
Oh,
$18
yeah.
million
Yep.
deal, bringing future
Yep.
Hall of Famer back. There, he had a Pro Bowl year last year. I understand Pro Bowl is not what it once was, but that meant he was playing better than most. The Chiefs did sign a left tackle, Jalen Moore. Once they missed on Ronnie Stanley, they signed him to a 2-year, $30 million deal. It's an upgrade, but I don't know how much of an upgrade. They also traded Joe Tooney to the Bears. So they trade their best O-lineman or second best O-lineman, he and Creed Humphrey, but he's a 4-time All-Pro who won 3
While
Super
we're
Bowls.
on the Chiefs, this is a little unrelated to the free or to the legal tampering stuff, but I do just want to put out there. There's moments in the media where I think it's very, very important to kind of get slapped in the face. And I am going to fully take accountability for this, where I got a notification about Xavier Worthy getting into some trouble, getting arrested for a domestic dispute gone bad. Immediately, I was like, what an idiot. Why did he do that? He's got everything ahead of him. And then a little bit more information starts to trickle out. And it was a really great learning lesson for me to kind of get the whole story.
Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty. You know, it was just one of those immediate reactions where, and I didn't tweet about it. I was just like in my bathroom, got the notification and was like, what is wrong with him? Like, why would you do this? You had your whole life ahead of you.
Because a lot of Chiefs players have gotten in trouble with the law.
Because
He's not
it
alone.
is. And I hate to kind of make a generalization, but we do see athletes a lot, you know, football players, basketball players who kind of have that aggression behind their job and then maybe can't shut that off at home and things get heated, whatever. So it was a really great eye-opening moment for me that one, you know, men can be victims of the same thing that women can. And I don't know the whole story here, so I'm not speaking on their direct situation, but it was just very eye-opening to me that it's so important to get all the details before you work yourself up and create this narrative in your head. Cause I kind of caught myself getting frustrated. And then not even 5 minutes later, I'm looking through and I'm reading articles and I'm like, oh, there's a lot more to this story. And maybe still he's in the wrong in some capacity, but it was just kind of an eye-opening thing to me. So we'll obviously keep tracking how that story unfolds.
Well,
and
they're not
talk about
pressing
it.
charges, so.
But yeah,
Well,
it was
there's
just,
also
I'm taking account. I'm kind of holding myself accountable right now to just like,
to your point, the
sometimes you
person,
pump the brakes a little bit.
the legitimate media member or whoever broke that story is the real person who needs to pump the brakes on it.
Of course.
Because then it runs and everybody has
Yeah.
reactions to it where you didn't gather enough information right off the bat. You may have just seen an arrest record or some police record. And there are media members who just scour through police records, look for a name they recognize, and then blast it out.
Well, and by the way, the notification I got from ESPN that originally made me have that reaction did just say was arrested for domestic violence. So it's like, that was kind of the only way I could interpret that was like, he did it up. He effed up, right? So then, but again, it just like very valuable moment of, you know, not creating a narrative in your head until you have all the information. So
and the sad part about that, Liv, is that Xavier Worthy, like there's a lot of people who will discover that it was, if it in fact it was bogus. There will be a lot of people who discover that it was, but some people never will.
Yeah,
and their mind will be made up about Xavier Worthy.
Totally.
And for the rest of their time, when they'll see him on the TV, they'll be like, man, screw that scumbag. You know, he's a criminal. He beats women, whatever it is, without getting the end of the story. It's like a newspaper when they get something wrong. You read it and that's what you absorb. The next day they might do a retraction or a correction, but it comes on the inside page and it's on a tiny little box and nobody really reads that. What they read is the lie up front, and the lies travel faster than the truth. And so hopefully that thing gets worked out.
Yeah, I hope so too. And obviously, you know, we've kind of seen the Chiefs go through quite a few of these moments with some of their athletes. So I hope it is not true. And I hope that we get to the bottom of it. But I also hope if it is true that the Chiefs kind of figure out creating a culture that hopefully avoids, because it does feel like it's happened with the Chiefs
and their receivers
more times than not.
Yeah, a lot of them. So Tyreek Hill guy has his troubles with the law. Rashee Rice had his troubles last season, off season. Xavier Worthy now, and there might be some I'm missing, but yeah, it's unfortunate when that stuff happens.
This is the Broncos are losing Traymon Smith. He's headed back to the Texans on a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. I know the Broncos wanted to re-sign him, as we talked about just a little earlier. They are bringing Matt Pert back, 2 years, $7 million as a backup swing tackle, upwards of 10 if he ends up having to play more. There's, I'm sure, some other incentives that are built into that to get him the $3 million more dollars. And then Justin Sternad, they're trying to bring back as well to compete inside. We know they want to play Drew Sanders next to Alex Singleton. We'll see what they do in the draft.
Why do we know that they want to play Drew Sanders next to Alex Singleton?
We know that they want to put Drew Sanders inside. Sean Payton said so at the combine.
What about Cody, man? What about Cody Barton?
I do not think Cody
Did he
Barton
not
is going
play
to do
well
that.
enough to stick on this team?
I think with Alex coming back and
I feel like he
speed,
did.
He played in. I think he did great. He hit an. No,
so
he did
too.
not hit that incentive. If he would have gotten an interception in the last game, he would have earned another $250,000. But he stepped in for Alex Singleton,
Yeah.
and they were a top 10 defense in every metric. And Cody Barton was a big reason why. He became the green dot guy, which means you have to communicate the defense to everybody.
It's a big job.
It is. It's not
Big
easy.
job.
Patrick Queen in Pittsburgh wasn't able to do that. And Pittsburgh Steelers defense was in disarray all season because he had the communication issues with the green dot. It's not as easy as it seems.
Right.
You got to get everybody lined up in the same spot, at the right spot as well. You got to get it fast enough so that you can disguise your defense and what you're doing. If you're slow on the uptake, you're like, to jet, but by the time guys get lined up, they can't disguise it. It puts you behind the 8 ball. So I thought Cody Barton stepped in and did a great job. And it just shows you how fickle the NFL is. You stepped in, you did an amazing job. We were a top 10 defense. We made the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Bye.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
That's
good luck.
hard. That's hard.
And he wants to be here, I imagine. This is a team you want to be on. The Broncos are ascending. They got all the pieces. They got the richest owner in the league. They got a coach who knows how to win. And there's only a handful of coaches in the NFL who really know what Sean Payton knows about how to win in the NFL. You got a quarterback who you love going forward, a lot of young talent, a defensive player of the year. And you got to say goodbye to that and go, end up on, the Saints or wherever you end up. And it kind of sucks for Cody.
Well, I'm going to let you get into this, but let's just move on to halftime because we're kind of getting the halftime and the second half of the Broncos heavy conversations about who goes where, who resigns.
Unless Aaron Rodgers ends up with the Steelers, and
in the next 30 minutes, could that happen?
There is one report out there that he and the Steelers are in
simpatico
in conversations.
Ooh,
and
we
Aaron
might
Rodgers,
get some breaking news right here on the show, but let's talk about some news that we don't know. I don't know if there's been any conversations about this, but Von Miller back to the Broncos is our halftime conversation. And then after that, we'll get into more Broncos conversation in terms of who we think will be re-signed, who we think free agent wise, what are the Broncos looking at? So Von Miller, is there any chance that Von Miller, because it does feel like Sean Payton kind of did away with any of the he wanted a new era for Broncos country, which you can respect quite a bit because the start of the new era has felt like a breath of fresh spring air here in Colorado. So we're not mad at it at all. Is there a world where Von Miller comes back and is a Denver Bronco?
He signed a 6-year, $120 million deal in Buffalo, which was insane. This was after he was traded to the Rams, helped lead them to a Super Bowl win.
Yep.
And so everyone thought Von's back, Von's healthy, and Von's going to be just as productive as ever. He wasn't quite that in Buffalo. He tore his ACL. He's been banged up. He's getting older, of course. As an incredible of a career as Von has had and how much he's meant to this organization and how much this organization means to him. Because anytime he talks about the Broncos, it's we, it's us, it's my family. This is his home.
Yes.
That said, I do not expect him to be signed here as a player.
I don't think so either.
Maybe at the end is like an honorary thing so you can retire as a Bronco because that's what he would like, and I'm sure the Broncos would like that too. But to put him on the team, back in the rotation, and sort of, affect the chemistry that Sean Payton's building
and Sean's investing in young guys right now.
Well, and like you said, he's got the taste. The old taste that's in the mouth of the Broncos, it's gone. And I think he wants that to stay gone.
I agree.
Yeah, it's hard to bring in a guy that was the face of your team for so long. And then, despite being the Super Bowl MVP, was here through a lot of losing as well. I get Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton are still here, but they moved on from guys like Justin Simmons or Brandon McManus or guys that been around a long time. They traded Von to a Super Bowl contender. He wins the second Super Bowl. He would have been cut by the Bills a year ago, but they'd already restructured his contract because they needed some cap space relief. And so he played last year, hit an incentive. Like we saw in that final game. It was like the very first play. He just blows past the left tackle. Wasn't very effective in the playoffs. Obviously, they'll play those couple playoff games. But I do think he has one more year left in him. I know for a fact he wants to come here, but I don't expect the Broncos to sign him. He is having a charity event here May 29th. His annual Von Miller, Von's Vision night to take flight will be May 29th. So you can go to Von's Vision and check that out. And I do think he'll 100% sign a one-day contract at the end and come in and hold a press conference.
What if there were some injuries in the middle of the season and he was, in town and he was in shape, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and to to let everybody know, he sold his house here and he lives in Dallas.
Okay.
So he's in Dallas in the offseason. But signing with the Cowboys makes even less sense unless they trade Micah Parsons. And so I think if and he might be smart to wait and see if there's a team.
Or end a training camp type of
end
thing.
a training camp.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Ravens, Rams, a team that you think might have a chance. Eagles, and obviously Vic Fangio knows Vaughn really well. And so I think that makes more sense than him signing, in the next couple of days with the team. And I understand why the Bills moved on from him. He will always be a Bronco, like you said, but he will not be a Bronco next year because they really do you're about to have to pay Nick Benito more than the $23 million that was
you
out
got to
there.
pay that guy.
Yeah.
But you're not paying him $23 million. That was a number that was reported last week. It's going to be closer to 30 now, thanks to Myles Garrett and Max Crosby.
Wow.
Maybe it's 27 with some incentives, but it's not going to be 23 anymore. And you obviously you got Kupp, you like Jonah Ellis, and you honestly you got to like what you saw from DeAndre Tillman.
Yep.
And so that's part of the reason Sanders is going to start back inside is because they like those.
And
four
they could
guys.
draft a guy too,
for sure.
Yeah, and to improve the depth there. But you like your starters and
Patriots spending more money. They just signed Morgan Moses to a 3-year, $24
Morgan
million.
Moses. I've never heard of him.
He's a left tackle for the
Sounds
Jets
like a
last
country
year.
singer.
But he's a Jets starting left tackle, so you make the Jets. You make the Jets. I guess he was a right tackle because Tyron Smith was a left tackle, and you make the Patriots better, so you're hurting your division. But they're spending money because they have money to spend.
Yeah,
Broncos will have $100 million to spend next year.
They can give it.
How
to
much
me.
do they have to spend this year?
I have student loans. They can
About
give me some.
about 30.
Drop in the bucket.
You see a number that says $40 million. That's not accurate. It's about $30 million.
That they have to spend still?
Well, they have available,
Right.
not counting restructuring and this and that.
Even with the salary cap going up by another 23 million or so.
That's part of it. Was that gave them because they still have dead money on Russell Wilson, and you have to pay your rookies. That's where people are like, oh, they have this much money. It's like block out $10 million for your rookies, unless you have no draft class.
Yeah,
you're gonna if you got a first rounder and a second rounder and a third rounder, and they have all of those right now, you're gonna end up spending about $10 million. So that $40 million number is more like $30 million.
Cool. Yep. So they have a little money to work with, a little bit of wiggle room, not as much as they will. Still dealing with the Russell Wilson nonsense. And where's poor Russell going to end up? Is he going to have a football team?
I think he will end up somewhere at some point once all the
you
dust
think it
settles.
won't be Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh's still, I guess, in the mix. Although talking to some people very much in the know, those
Who are you
stories
talking
about
to, man?
those stories.
Can you tell us
Yeah, who are
about-
your sources?
Those stories about he and Arthur Smith not necessarily getting along are accurate.
Okay.
Mike Tomlin really going to bat for Russ and going against what Arthur Smith thought they would have been more effective with Justin Fields. There's a story out. There's been a story for a couple of days, but the Jets seem to like Justin Fields as well. And so Aaron Rodgers notwithstanding, Justin Fields may force the Steelers' hand a little and just go to the Jets. So then their two best choices are, or most obvious, are Russ back, Aaron Rodgers, or even Sam Darnold, although we hear Sam Darnold's in the mix in Seattle.
Yep.
Craziness.
Right. Yeah. So we all think Vaughn probably, what you think?
I think probably no, just
Yeah.
because I think Sean is really investing in young guys. And like I mentioned before, I think we're in a fresh new era in Denver for this Broncos team, and revisiting older players from a completely different era just doesn't seem like it's in Sean Payton's on his checklist.
No, he's not into sentimentalism and nostalgia for.
I could
he
see
wants to
them
do his
doing the
own
one-day
thing.
thing to just retire, because you cannot deny what Von Miller has done for Denver and the love he continues to show Denver. So that I could see down the road. I think from a how do we make this team better perspective, Sean Payton is not looking at anyone from the former Broncos era.
I'll tell you, Sean Payton's pretty good at straddling the line between paying respect to all the greats that came before him in this organization, because he talks about the greats of the Broncos organization. And Mike Shanahan, he's effusive with his praise to Mike Shanahan and how he revolutionized the game and all the greats that came before him. But this is my thing now.
Yeah.
And I know what I want.
And that's a hard balance, but he does it well.
Yeah, he does it well. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Third quarter. Let's get into it. And it's still Broncos patience here. We've got expected re-signings for the Denver Broncos. We can go ahead and say it because it is public knowledge that Jarrett Stidham back again. Stiddy boy.
Gets a raise.
Stiddy boy back again as the backup quarterback. I mean, feels like this was a smart and a safe move, in my opinion. He's got some experience there. This quarterback room seems to have a lot of chemistry and a lot of respect for one another. And you don't always get that with a backup and the starter. And so I think you kind of want to keep a little bit of that kumbaya because
Yeah.
it creates a healthy working culture. So to me, this felt like a safe but also very smart move to bring him back. Sounds like Zach Wilson is still it sounds like maybe the Broncos want to try to keep Zach Wilson,
Yeah.
but Zach Wilson may have his sights set elsewhere and may not
Yeah.
want that. Do you guys agree that Jarrett Stidham coming back for the Broncos was a relatively safe but also very smart move to kind of keep the kumbaya in the quarterback room?
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I think Stiddy is well liked in the locker room.
For sure.
Not, I would even say beloved.
But also respected too.
Yeah.
It feels like.
And he was the starter before before Bo got here. He
Yep.
replaced Russell. They sat Russell down those last couple weeks, and Russell had a story to tell about that was different from what management was telling, but whatever. But Jarrett Stidham went in there and went 1-1, didn't wow anybody. But Sean Payton brought him here because he liked him.
Yeah.
Because he liked his football acumen. He was in New England under some very smart football people. He played with the Raiders under Josh McDaniels, smart football guy, big douche, but smart football guy. And so learned a lot about the sport and about how to play the position.
Yeah.
And then he comes here and has to back up a rookie, which he handled very well. He handled it very well.
Yeah.
And Bo played all 17 games last year. Is it going to be like that every year for Bo? It's probably not.
Not if they keep doing the whole broken back play through it thing.
Right. And so,
and
so Jarrett understands the system.
Yep.
It's a risky play to bring in somebody who doesn't know what's what and have him back up a quarterback like Bo, who's already been playing banged up. So I like bringing back Jarrett. I think Zach Wilson's going to be interesting if a team wants to make him a starter.
Yeah.
But
do you think a team does want to make him a starter?
I think there'll be some teams who would be interested.
You know what? There's a level of athleticism that Zach Wilson has that I don't think gets talked enough about.
He can sling it.
He can sling that thing, and you also have to give him a little. I think and then BK, I'll toss to you. It's hard because Zach Wilson's era with the Jets was not wildly successful. It was a pretty big letdown. But then you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers in there and assume he's going to fix the problems, and he has just as bad of a season as Zach Wilson. So I think it's hard because people saw a really poor season from Zach Wilson and felt like, oh, this guy's washed up. I mean, hell, I think I thought that quite a few times watching him play with the Jets, but then kind of the bird's eye view of it all is like,
it's the culture thing, right?
Problem, right?
Like
this isn't just a quarterback issue.
Yeah.
This is an organization issue.
Same thing we were talking about with the Browns. It's like you're a great player somewhere else. You go there and you can't figure it out, right? There's things about culture that are really important. And, all these players that are moving around now, they may have had success elsewhere.
Yeah.
The new place they go, they may or may not have the same type of success because it is about the organization and the culture. We were talking about Shedeur Sanders. Where are you going to end up? Shedeur, to me, if Shedeur ends up with the Browns, okay, good luck because you're gonna be fighting the same crap that everybody does.
Baker, it's
good on the
there's
list.
layers
Johnny
to this.
Manziel.
Exactly.
And so Shadeur's talking about how he changes the culture everywhere he goes. I don't want my rookie quarterback to feel like it's on you to change the culture. That's why it's so appealing to come to the Denver Broncos because you don't have to change shit. Sean Payton has already done that. This is his culture. Just fall in and do your job.
Just show up and work.
And you're going to be able to find success. And I think that's what Bo was able to benefit from. He wasn't a culture. He wasn't asked to do anything other than just play ball. Just be yourself and go out there and play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think the Denver Broncos are a very attractive team for free agents to come to right now. And the same can't be said about a lot of teams.
Going back to Stidham real quick, I'm going to attribute this, but it's as good a piece of advice as I've heard for any quarterback, young or old. But so getting a chance to talk to Jordan Palmer a bunch of times over the years at the combine, and he still works out with guys getting ready for the combine, has all these high school kids he works with, but the pros that he's worked with, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, those guys still come back and we'll see him. Certainly he stays in communication with them, but Jordan's Carson Palmer's little brother, and Carson Palmer, number 1 overall pick, Heisman winner, comes in to the Bengals, sits behind John Kitna for a year. But then, because we remember John Kitna going to Seattle, and maybe we even went to Cowboys, but John didn't leave right away.
Right.
So then John became Carson's backup, and Carson's told Jordan, and so Jordan's passed this along to guys like Patrick Mahomes, who's had Matt Moore or Chad Henne in the room with them, that no matter how good you are, having a veteran quarterback, the guy that's been around the league, that's been around some other systems, that understands the way the league works, that's not your coach, even though the coach is about the same age, When you talk about your quarterback coach and Davis Webb here, that when you go to the sideline, the quarterback is hearing every call, the backup, and is seeing what something else can be your eyes and ears. So Stidham is kind of the perfect fit. And we all think, as we see what Chase Daniel's becoming on TV, that Stidham can have a similar type career where he's going to end up. He's made $20 million the last 2 years. He's going to make another 12. So let's just, even if he never truly is a starter where it's his team, he's going to end up with $50 million as a career backup, but a valuable resource for Bo Nix and for potentially the next place he goes. But I think it's good to have him back in the fold versus Zach Wilson, who we saw the talent.
Yeah.
If I'm Zach Wilson's agent at WME, I'm looking at the Colts hard. And if they're serious about a true competition, let him go to Indy and try. And they may be looking somewhere else for the competition with Anthony Richardson. But Zach Wilson's going to have a chance to go somewhere that
What about a place like Tennessee?
Well, let's see what they do with that early draft pick. But yeah, Tennessee for Zach Wilson might make
Will
a lot of
Levis
sense.
and his mayonnaise.
The moment he talked about that mayonnaise in the coffee thing, I was like, he's going to be a flop. You
Oh,
can't be doing all that.
No, that's not
That's
great.
crazy work. I'm sorry.
That's way different than
that's
cereal and
another
milk.
level of like just outlandish behavior.
That's not. I need to put some cereal in my milk.
And
That
does
is-
he really like it, or is he leaning into it to be that guy?
I mean, he said it with some conviction before people like made like a whole thing about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, really?
My next door neighbor, used to eat mayonnaise out of the jar growing up. And he's about
find that
6
odd.
years older than I am, and he still lives at home with mom and dad. So I'm not saying that's where Will Levis is going, but you never know.
Will Levis
Basically, what we're saying is mayonnaise could be an early
An
sign
indicator.
to
Yes.
some weird stuff happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much. Okay, resign. Any other resigns? Did we talk about DJ?
DJ Jones.
we did talk about DJ
Okay,
Jones.
yep.
But let's really quickly expand upon that. I mean, DJ Jones coming from the San Francisco 49ers had a really good tenure there, especially his last year there. He came here. And did he come here under the Fangio or the Hackett? He was here for Hackett's last year, right?
Yeah.
And that was a tough year for everybody. And DJ Jones.
Don't remind
But
me.
he played really. He was I think he priced graded about as high as anybody in
Yeah.
the PS2 that year.
Yeah. And just him now being paired with Jonathan Franklin Myers and Zach Allen, and those edge rushers have created a very formidable not front seven, but a defensive line.
Yeah.
And you don't want to break it up. A lot of it's chemistry. And so it's like there could be a more attractive physical talent somewhere else.
For sure.
But this is a known commodity. You know how DJ comes to work every day. You know what kind of guy he is. You know how he interacts with the other team, your teammates, your coaches. You know how he dissects the system. You know how he takes care of his body, his professionalism, all that. And so I love bringing back DJ Jones, integral part of this top 10 defense.
You know a fun fact about DJ Jones real quick?
Yeah.
His dad was the chef for the Cowboys in the 90s.
Oh.
And
how
he
the
likely
HE double hockey sticks do you find out all these things?
Well, because I grew up in Dallas in the 90s and I knew all the no, I'm just kidding. His dad has a barbecue sauce. So what happened was maybe his grandma, somebody got sick. So he just left a really good job as running the show with the Cowboys on their nutrition side and the meals and had to go back to Mississippi, which is where DJ grew up. Instead of growing up around all the Cowboys, he grew up in Mississippi, obviously found his way to the league. But yeah, his dad threw those Super Bowls. So his dad, I think, has 3 Super Bowl rings. And then at Taste of the Broncos, his dad was out here with the barbecue sauce, cooking with one of the local restaurants. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. You can find it online. It's like it's got his name on it, but it's his dad's sauce. So it's DJ Jones.
One of the best barbecue sauces out there is from McDonald's, by the way.
Stop.
That's
no,
good.
I'm serious.
Hey, we love
tangy, their tangy barbecue sauce is like one of one.
We love McDonald's around here.
Oh,
I DoorDashed McDonald's at 10 p.m. last night.
But the one thing,
why, Liv? You have a tummy problem.
Nate's very sick of my behavior
DoorDash
doing
McDonald's is like, here, have this thing we made 2 hours ago. It's been in the freezer for 2 years.
I will say the fries were disgusting.
Yeah, because fries are the worst.
If I actually would have thrown them at the TV screen, they probably would have cracked the screen.
You want to be the richest person in the world? Figure out how to transport fries either to go from leaving the restaurant right as they're fresh, or if you're done eating and whatever.
Yeah, fries are impossible.
Or DoorDash or deliver. It's impossible to get fries, even if you have an air fryer at home. It's still never going to be the same.
And I just couldn't get myself to get up and go get them myself. I was watching Below Deck, and so I was just very comfortable.
You can't stay for a movie, but
get
you
up
Below Deck.
No, Below Deck is a reality show.
I know.
I
know what it is.
Okay, it's a movie. It's a show.
No, I'm saying you can't stay up for a movie, but you'll stay up for Below Deck for 8 episodes of Below Deck.
I don't know what it is. Movies
Bravo.
movies just make me sleepy.
So do you guys have any food in your refrigerator or anything like that?
Of course, a
Or-
lot.
Not so
Especially
much.
following the engagement
You're like,
because
I just went shopping.
he rented out the wine and charcuterie place where we first met. And so we got all the leftover like cheese and
Why didn't
meats
you
and
bring in
fruit.
a cheese tray?
And
We'd
that
love a
wasn't
charcuterie
enough?
plate.
I was running a little behind today.
Oh,
Couldn't
well,
think
you
about
made it.
cheese, but I can bring it later.
What was the McDonald's? Did you get the filet of fish again?
Oh my gosh, no. I had to stay away from that. I
Yeah.
got the hot and spicy with no mayo.
Hot and spicy. What is
Yeah, a
that?
little like chicken
That's
sandwich.
a spicy
Oh,
sandwich.
okay.
It's both hot and
the
spicy.
the curated
It's both
chicken.
hot
Yeah.
The
and
spicy curated chicken sandwich. Yeah. Anyway,
Anywho.
okay. Fourth quarter. We're talking Broncos still. And we're gonna be talking about little free agent action. Any expected free agents for Denver? What are we feeling, fellas?
It
BK,
feels
we'll start
like-
with you.
Well, it feels like we'll end where we started in that the second the Jags decide to move on from Evan Ingram, everybody's ears perked up around here like, well, that's the perfect Joker. And that's what Nate
Does
said.
feel like that would be a great
So
fit.
He's in the building today. He's been around. The Giants, obviously a proud organization, but his time there was overshadowed. He had the end of Eli's run, Saquon Barkley's ups and downs, and then he ends up in Jacksonville, where we know that they're always kind of directionless. And now to come here and see the way Sean Payton's used tight ends like Jeremy Shockey, like
Mhm.
Jimmy Graham, we could go down the list, that he could be that guy. I'm sure they're sitting there with them, be like, look, this could be you running this route. This could be you. And Bo's going to make all these throws.
It's the middle of the field that they have not been able to exploit with a tight end who has the kind of quick twitch ability, the speed to get on his horse, as they say, the presence to kind of sit down and take advantage of those zones. A veteran. He's run a lot of routes in the NFL. He's a 30-year-old who's played a ton of football, even though he's had some injury issues. He's been asked to be the guy on a lot of offenses. And so
Right.
when you are that guy, you draw a lot of attention from defenses. You get to run every route in the route tree. And Sean Payton has a lot of those routes that he hasn't been able to unfurl for these tight ends because of they don't have that skill set. So I think Evan Ingram would present a really great upgrade and option for this offense. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they do still draft a tight end really high.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a first round, could be a second round guy, but this whole tight end room is going to look different. Adam Troutman, they love him, but is he going to be a staple? I think he'll stay for another year or two because of what he knows, his
Right.
work ethic, his professionalism, his technique. Those are things a young tight end could do.
And they signed Lucas Kroll to that 1 year restricted tender.
Yeah. So
Well, and Evan Ingram kind of strikes me as a very smart player, and I think Sean Payton really likes smart veterans that just you can stick them in your system and they'll figure
Well, and
it
he's
out.
played in a lot of systems too, because he
Correct,
played for
and
Pat
that's what I
Shurmur, he played
mean.
for
Like
Brian
you
Daboll.
have to be
Daboll,
smart to be able to adapt to different cultures and systems and what. So I feel like that's kind of a guy that already Sean Payton is kind of like.
you
Yeah.
learn a lot, but also you get confused a lot too.
Of course.
And so you know a lot about opposing defenses and how space opens up and what defenses like to do. But on the offensive side, when you're getting someone new every time, they change the rules on you a lot.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it would be really nice for him to be in a system where things were very clear, where your expectations were very clear of you. That was a successful system. I mean, I wonder if he's been on a winning team, maybe one, right? During that time. So it sucks losing. And you
Yeah.
start to, it's like kind of like the Justin Simmons thing or the Cortland Sutton thing. Like, am I part of the losing? Am I a loser? Because we lose.
Got to find that. You got to dig deep and find that.
And then you
confidence at
realize
that point.
you find yourself on the right team with the right culture. You realize, no, it wasn't me.
Right.
It was the top,
Right.
and our inability to create some consistency and a system that guys could thrive in. Sean Payton has done that here. He knows
Yeah,
what he's doing. This
he
is going to be
does.
his 18th head coaching season in the NFL coming up. That's
Like
a
you
lot.
said, this is a team that free agents right now
Yes.
want to play for.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, the Jaguars only went to the playoffs and beat the Chargers.
That's
He was
right.
he was on that squad.
Yeah.
But with the Giants, it wasn't there wasn't much in the postseason to talk about, which is why he had all those different. He might even been there with Ben McAdoo too, in
Okay.
addition to Shermer. The other move though is the other guy that they're interested in as of now, and it doesn't surprise me when you look at the talent and the safety Talanoa Hufanga, who's a Pro Bowler in year 2 with San Fran, but he's just been banged up in the last 2 years. Played 10 games 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl and 7 this last season. But you pair him with Brandon Jones, your pal, and that's getting better up the middle, as we talked about. They want to do. They didn't have to do much up front because they've got Malcolm Roach back. They now have DJ Jones. They're going to rework Zach Allen's deal. We think, if we believe those reports, that he wants more money. Understandably, JFM also tweeted that he would like more money.
Oh,
Something along those lines. When he saw the Zach Allen report, he basically had a hand raised tweet or something along those lines. JFM's a little more engaged on Twitter than most players.
Yeah.
And so it's probably worth it though. And that could be one of the reasons, even as these linebackers came off the board, you're going to have to just deal with Alex Singleton and Drew Sanders and perhaps Justin Sternad and a draft pick, because you're going to pay Hufanga, because you're going to have to pay these guys.
Yeah.
And you can't also pay a Nick Bolton type who's not available anymore $15 million per, because you're just not going to have enough money.
I will say, just on the Brandon Jones thing, I got a very nice and bougie bottle of alcohol from them in celebration of the weekend because they could not be here. So,
wow.
I nothing
about
but
to get
love
so
for
many
the Joneses.
Gifts.
You're going to
and
get
stuff.
married in the summer, right? Not in football or basketball season?
I can't get married in football or basketball
So
season.
next June or July, maybe?
Yeah, how long
No,
is it?
I'm thinking, honestly, I kind of feel like I want a spring wedding. So I may.
Couple
I mean,
months,
here's
or-
the deal. If I work around sports, the only month I have is July.
At the end of June.
So it's like that. There's going to have to be a time where I'm just like, hey, I'm off for the weekend. Sorry, can't do it. But I am thinking maybe
But you
like
can
next
still do
spring.
a live post-game reaction during that time, right? If
Probably.
if we need
I'll
you.
figure it out. Listen,
Nuggets
I will
if the
figure
Nuggets
it
have
out.
a big game in the spring.
I know, right?
Brandon's gonna call
Watch,
you.
it will be my luck that it's like, the wedding date is set and I have it's like game 7 and the Nuggets are like.
Well, depending
know.
on what you mean by spring, because if you bring March, which isn't, depends on when in March, versus May.
But yeah, I am gonna for sure have to work around it. I mean, because I want Bree and Brandon there. I made a joke to Debo on FaceTime and said, if I invite you to the wedding, are you gonna be there? And he said 1,000% yes, like for sure. Which he might just be gassing me up in that moment. But yeah, I'm gonna have to work around a lot of people's schedules because I want all of my people there. So yeah.
Well, exciting times for you.
Very.
I want to
And the Broncos.
and the Broncos.
Everyone.
Hufanga, the
Yeah.
safety Hufanga, because he'll be replacing PJ Locke if he is signed here. PJ Locke stepped in when Kareem Jackson had his issues, multiple suspensions. You remember Kareem Jackson? He hit too hard.
Mm-hmm.
He hit too hard, and the NFL didn't like that.
Yeah.
Because a guy his size has to turn himself into a missile to smash people, and he did it very effectively, almost too effectively. Yes, he used his head as a weapon, but guess what? Everyone else does. Hufanga does. He hits hard. And I'll tell you, as a former receiver tight end who used to run across the middle of the field and have to get hit by safeties, having a guy who brings the wood like he does is a huge asset to your team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in an era that has sort of lost that, the big hitting, hard hitting safety, the Ronnie Lott type of guy who would come in and crack you. Receivers don't like that. And then they start getting alligator arms. They start getting T-Rex arms.
Did
and they
Palomalo
don't
ever get you?
Not
Or
the
Brian
T-Rex.
Dawkins?
No.
That one shot on you just now was everything. Let's get that again. Yeah, show us the T-Rex arms.
If you try to catch a pass like this, it doesn't work. You got to reach out your arms. But if you're afraid of getting smashed in the face, your arms get real short. Okay, your arms get real short.
Gosh.
All right, so Hufanga has that effect on people. If he can stay healthy, he presents a presence back there that the Broncos haven't had since Kareem left.
Yeah.
And have sorely missed, and I think will make their defense even better.
And they talk about the comparisons to Palomalo because of how he plays and how he looks. They're both Polynesian, and he also trains with Troy Polamalu in the offseason.
Oh, he does.
So
does he also use Head and Shoulders?
I would just assume so, that Troy's like, here you go.
You know Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite shampoo was Head and Shoulders?
I didn't. I don't keep
then I'm
track
gonna
of
stay away
serial
from that
killers'
one.
favorite
Get it?
shampoo.
Yeah,
Head and
how
Shoulders?
do you know that, by the way?
It's a joke.
I get it.
Head and Shoulders because he consumed his victims.
Yeah.
He ate them.
That's good. Head and Shoulders. That's good.
Head and Shoulders.
Oh my gosh, that went over my head.
Cannibal shampoo jokes.
Cannibal jokes.
Yeah.
Cannibal dad jokes.
I saw a dad joke yesterday that made me laugh. That said, I asked this girl to meet me at the gym, and then when she didn't show, I knew that we weren't going to work out.
Ha! It's funny. I have to pee so bad. It's honestly.
Well,
it's
that's
settling.
good.
Well,
End of the show. We're here.
Yeah, let's do the 2-minute warning. I know
2-minute
we
warning.
don't have one up there, but
You want me to come up with one on the fly right now?
if you have one,
Okay. My 2-minute one. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm going to put Nate Jackson on the spot for this one. Your 2-minute warning is tell me why.
tell me why
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
Okay, tell me why.
Tell me why.
I think last week you talked about Cooper Kupp being a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Tell me why Cooper Kupp is not.
Why are you doing that to me? Because
A good
I
idea.
love Cooper Kupp, and I think Hit it.
3, 2, 1, boop.
So I think Cooper Kupp would be a great addition, but there's a world in which he's not.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, he's been injured. He was used up. Okay, his juice. Here's the argument against it. He doesn't have a lot left in the tank.
Right.
He was a Triple Crown winner. Not a lot of receivers have done that. He had most receptions, most touchdowns, and most yards in a season, like 3 or 4 years ago. This was your Super Bowl year, and he's been sort of falling off ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of that was because of Puka Nacua becoming a favorite target over there, Matt Stafford, but he's also had some injury issues, and he works his ass off, and he's going to work until something snaps and something pops, and he's so focused on that I think the injury issues have to be a concern. Also, the money. You have a
$25 million this year he's going to make.
$25 million. Do you want to spend that on Cooper Kupp, a guy who may be losing his mustard, who may be losing his juice, and also you're going to take away a lot of valuable reps from young players who you really want to see develop.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos are on a Super Bowl trajectory, but is 2025 really going to be that year? Or do you really think 26, 27, 28 is their sweet spot? And will Cooper Kupp be around for that 27, 28, 29 run?
Mm-hmm.
So are you really taking away reps from these young players who are going to emerge and become better? And is there a better, a guy who can have his role? Because with all the guys that Bo likes throwing to, Cooper Kupp, is he going to be worth that much money to get 60 catches, 70 catches? Because you've got to feed Cortland. You got to feed Marvin.
You might have feed Evan Ingram.
You might have feed Evan Ingram. You're going to want to run the ball. And then, by the way, Devon Vele is emerging, and you want to throw the ball to Troy Franklin. So is there a world in which bringing in Cooper Kupp takes energy away from all these other guys who are starting to develop and distracts because Bo's going to want to throw it to the new shiny toy.
You should acquire him, whether you trade for him or otherwise. Is your pal Debo's team? You put him with those two guys, with McLaurin being the number one, with Debo being Debo, then him coming in a little. Are rookies by any means. They're both rookies in 2019, so they're vets.
Yeah.
But adding Cooper Kupp with the rookie quarterback and that salary flexibility, or even a team like New England that's just trying to change the culture back, bring in Cooper Kupp there. But he's only played the last few years, 9 3 years ago, 12, 11. That's not trending in the right direction.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, well, we went over 2 minutes, but
that's okay.
Nonetheless, we made a case for the good and the bad of Cooper Kupp,
That's
and
right.
that wraps up this episode of Guerrilla Sports Off Field. We will have more to talk about on Thursday, same time, same place, discussing all things. What did the legal tampering period look like? What are these teams looking like? And maybe starting to make some predictions on how we think these trades will affect the upcoming season.
Trades and signings.
Yep.
And
for that,
the league year starts Wednesday at 2:00 Mountain Time.
And we'll be back Thursday.
And we'll be back Thursday. I'm Liv Moods. That's Brandon Krisztal. That's Nate Jackson. This is another Guerrilla Sports Off Field presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money, getting you a better interest rate, lowering your monthly payments. They are here to help. Shout out to our friends at Trusted American. And we'll see you guys Thursday. Bye.